Oh, well, hello, my wonderful, beautiful brothers of the wonderful, beautiful Maverick Nation. And, I have something special for you, but first, damn it, my freaking OCD. Anyways, boy, do I have a special surprise for you guys and gals. Hmm. I'm going to be switching it up. Some days it's going to be, what was it? Bloodtail and Snowset. Some days it's going to be these two. But the rest will stay pretty much the same for however long I want it to stay the same. But I'm just now letting you guys know that I plan on changing it up. Because I have two new ones to show you. Technically, if you've been in my head for a good while, they aren't really new at all. Well, yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and say that right there. If you've been in my head at all, these AU what if things, they haven't really been new AUs at all. That is, if you've been living in my head for the past however long I've been coming up with these ideas. Oh, Jesus. It's cold. I slept so damn good, and as soon as I get out of the covers, it's cold as balls. But hey, I I'm good. Just because it's cold doesn't mean it's unlivable. And so let's go on to the first two. Well, the first out of the next two, which are all our bases belong to us. Never mind. Basically, the next two I have here, like the last two, for now, mm, are I remember one of them, but for some reason the name of the other one escaped me for some reason. Oh, Jesus. Oh, Jesus Christ. God. Oh, yeah, now I remember. Uh, there are two, and the two that are I'm going to be doing whenever I'm not doing, Snowset and, Bloodtail. The two that I'm going to be doing whenever I'm not doing those two are going to be Gallemytail and Gametail. Gallemytail was the one I forgot there for a second for some reason. And don't get me wrong, both of them are very dark. And so, if you don't like dark, I suggest you leave my entire channel because I can get pretty dark sometimes. If you're squeamish whenever it comes to that kind of stuff, then I suggest you run the news to someone else's channel that you can handle their shit. Only brave boys. Only the brave boys in this channel. And brave boys and brave girls. No discrimination in the Maverick Nation. So, well, what am I gonna do first? I'm gonna start off with. Uh, hmm. I'm gonna start off with Gallemytale actually, because Gallemy Sands is actually a Sands that I think he's one of the first ones I made. Yeah, so let's get on with it. And for actually good reason, that will tie into the story. Technically, Gallemytale doesn't start in a like Undertale or Deltarune like universe. It actually starts in the universe of MLPFIM. Now I know it sounds crazy, but hello, who's telling the story here? Me, Mr. Crazy all over. First of all, and second of all, it will get it will tie into the story as we move on. While we're starting here. Anyways, if any of you guys know about, My Little Pony, then I probably don't need to explain this to you. You know, the princesses, Celestia and Luna, and there's Princess Cadence. And then there's, like, the elements of harmony, there's Twilight, there's Pinkie Pie, there's Rainbow Dash, there's Rarity, there's Applejack, and Fluttershy. Did I already mention Fluttershy? I don't think I mentioned Fluttershy. Fluttershy, that's the six. And, well, basically what I'm doing here is I'm going to use the whole Bride of Discord, Daughter of Discord, like, story thread to help move this thing along. Because that's kind of how this this story goes. You know, it sets it sets off from like that story, but instead of like the finished story, the story is going to basically actually, yeah, it's going to start from where the basic last episode left off. I believe episode 8 of Daughter of Discord. Everyone's happy and everything. Everyone's happy. And, you know, Mothball, Screwball's boyfriend, who is a changeling, but, due to events that happened in those two series that are not made by me, no, not at all. I wish I could be that good at making stories. Sometimes I truly do. Why, sometimes you just gotta really settle for you. Anyways, everyone is happy. That is until the Fire Nation attack. No, not the Fire Nation. But, the Fire Nation, they would kind of be more merciful, considered more merciful. And, well, it's not the Fire Nation, but what it is someone, a humanistic form. They have black and red eyes. And, well, They're just looking over the entire land, looking over everything, looking over all of Equestria. Every single last inch of all of the land. There's Ponyville, there's Cloudsdale, there's the Changeling Hive. There's so many areas. And there's Saddle Arabia as well. There's so many different areas. Cause some mayhem and destruction. Kinda makes a tear come to his eye before it fizzles out due to his burning energy, sizzling, crackling from his excitement of what he's going to do first. The figure, touches down onto the land in which all of the ponies live, Ponyville, and exclaims this: "Hello, ponies, and goodbye, ponies." Yeah! And in less than a millisecond, most of the surrounding area has been completely destroyed. Most, if not all of it, has been completely destroyed. And it was only by the, actual smart thinking of Twilight seeing this person, knowing that they're not familiar, and seeing a giant ball of energy at their fingertip. Yeah, but, well, Twilight thinks it's magic. It's actually energy or whatever. And, well, basically, it was thanks to Twilight that everyone survived. But the person also seems to notice that figure. So you want to play, don't you? Well, I can always use more. Time for a lance of a time. Yeah, yeah. And well, now there's two coming out, and so Twilight has to be like, well, where are they going, and like where are they coming from? Where are they going? So like she can know like what she can do and like which one she can defend from, like which one will result in less casualties. But eventually, after all of this energy flailing, you know, Twilight begins to realize this dude is playing with them. It's toying with them. And eventually, Discord and Fluttershy, they can't sleep because of this crazy mofo throwing energy blasts. And Screwball is told to stay in her room and, protect her little brother. You know, nothing bad about that. Mm. And, well, just deep down inside, Screwball knows something's up. And all of a sudden, kaboom! Another giant explosion goes off. And basically, Fluttershy's there with everybody else, and they're gonna try to use the elements of harmony to seal this creature in the stone. But shock horror, it doesn't work. And then this being proceeds to, like, telepathically, like, or like some sort of kinesis, bring the elements of harmony over to him and crush them all in his hands. And just be like, now what are you going to do? No, really, I need some ideas. Not. And more energy just comes flying out of nowhere. And eventually, the figure is just like, yeah, you, you, all of you, even the princesses are weak. I couldn't even get them to give me a good fight. All of you are weak. You disappoint me, ponies. Now, time for another one. This one won't miss. Yeah! And this one's even bigger. And just like whenever Screwball finally goes to look out the window, sees like everything is on fire. And well, it's just like the only person or like pony that she really has else, like the only other one alive, as long as she's alive, and the only other pony alive is her brother. And so she just grabs her brother and just tries her best at boost to winning it out of there. But the figure, it appears in front of them. And it's like, oh, so you didn't like my little fireworks show? And Screwball's like, here's your answer. And basically the figure just gets kicked in the noids. He's just like, damn, pony. And after being kicked in the, goody goods, you know, basically, he opens up a portal for both Screwball and I believe the brother's name was Zany, I think. Basically, Screwball sees and is like, why did you do that? And the figure's just like, just go in before I change my mind. And Screwball, is thinking, one part of her is thinking this is a trap, and the other part is thinking, even if it is, it's her only way out of this hellhole. The hellhole that her, previous home used to be. Like, it used to be a happy place, and now it's just been turned into a hellhole. So she pretty much has no other option, unless she wants to just die then and there. Be stuck with this creep, whoever he is. And, she doesn't want to put her brother through that, so she goes through the thing and comes out the other side, having her mind racked. And she's just like, my head. Ugh. And whenever she like comes out the other end, she just realizes she's in the middle of like a big ass forest, and she's just moving her caboose, trying to find somewhere where her and her brother can like sleep. And then she begins to realize slowly and surely, as she's beginning to, you know, become even more fatigued, that, like, where is Zany? Zany's not here anymore. Where, where is? And then all of a sudden, she just becomes so exhausted that she just hits the floor. And she's been realizing now, wait, for some reason, that she hasn't been able to realize just how long she's been going. And basically, whenever all of time catches up to her, she's able to remember just how long she's been going. She kind of notices also too that her stomach is like rumbling and like jumbling, and with that, she finally begins to realize she's been going on it for what could be considered days, if not months, weeks, months, around that amount of time, maybe almost even a year, and like that's almost a year. So yeah, so by all means, she should be dead by now. With like never stopping to like get food and wherever like where's Zany? But then she begins to hear something. It's a little pitter patter of things. Basically, what I'm going to go ahead and say here is she doesn't know what this is, but it's actually the sound of a helicopter going down and touching land. And well, what she does notice is that something, something that looks like a skeleton in, like dressed in all black, wearing sunglasses, and he's just thinking weird, but not impossible. But she then sees that this, sunglass wearing, all black wearing, freaking, like, freaking skeleton, just like, she, like, passes out just right before what happens next. And that's the skeleton scoops her up and gets back to the chopper, and well, they just go away. And well, the skeleton says, last thing that, like, she can remember hearing, because she lost sight right before she lost hearing. She couldn't remember hearing the skeleton saying something about, oh, he'll like this. For sure. He'll like this. I'm for sure of it. And the next moment she knows, like, whenever she can wake up, she's inside of a giant, big ass laboratory. And, well, she's just like, where am I? Laboratory? Where's Zany? Uh, where is anything? Uh, I. And then all of a sudden, right from behind her, she just hears, now, calm the hell down. Or do I have to blue soul you? And then she hears a voice coming from, like, the side of her. It's like, no. Spy sense. No, that won't be needed. After all, we are to make her feel at home for as long as she's willing to stay here. And this person who was called Spy Sans, just like comes around and she can see that that was the skeleton who was wearing the sunglasses and also wearing just in general all black. And they just say, well, as long as they're willing to stay here, you mean as long as they're willing to be alive? There is no not staying here. They don't have a home to go back to. That was made pretty clear by the person who destroyed it. Looking a lot like you, boss. And then the other person is just like, well, don't call me that, Spy Sans. You know you can call me my, usual name. And then the person known as Spy Sans is just like, well, yeah, normally I would be all for that, but, this is a formal operation. And considering we lost track of the other kid, God knows where they are. Uh, you know, I just never mind. And then, basically, like, as soon as Screwball is able to, like, get, like, all of her mobility back, she's just like, okay, this is it. I'm gonna, if I don't get any answers soon, I'm gonna. And it's like, and then Screwball realizes, yeah, even before she passed out, she was incredibly freaking hungry. And the person, she now notices they're wearing a white lab coat. And they have a tag on that white lab coat saying Dr. Knight, formerly of the SCP Foundation. And Screwball has no idea what a freaking SCP Foundation is, so she's like, whatever. That is until this person, sits, some food in front of her, and even a drink, and even utensils to eat the food with, as if they already knew that she actually could indeed use food utensils. That regardless of how difficult it may look, to use, like with hooves, she can indeed freaking use food utensils. And, he just sits down on like a swivel chair, like the equivalent of one, and turns around to look at her and be like, go on and eat. But that's whenever Screwball realizes the insane amount of similarities to, you know, basically, you know, his appearance, send me a, or like, basically, Screwball just realizes, you, you're, uh, uh, you don't have his eyes. And he's just like, yeah, the guy who did that to your home is my son. He's a little out of control. If you don't say so myself. Anyways, I would hate for you to die of hunger and thirst. So, the best I could find for your kind. And Screwball is just like, how do I know this isn't poisoned? And then Spy Sands actually does blue soul them, and then, like, eat the damn food before I put a hole through your skull. And, this other person, they're just like, Spy, if I'm your boss, then you're gonna do what I say, right? And what I say is, leave them alone. I've got this. And by the way, that also means unblue soul them. And so Spy does what he's told, and Screwball's like, Blue Soul? Oh, and thank you, but Blue Soul? And, the other person's just like, yeah, Blue Soul, like Blue Soul magic. Because it turns the soul blue and allows you to do a certain things whenever that soul is blue. But all will be explained in due time. You just have to get back to complete full stat before anything else. Oh, and about your brother, like Spy said, we lost him. Doesn't mean he's dead, he's probably just out somewhere. Sorry. We would have put a tracker on, but by the time we got to you, we had already realized that from the traces of DNA we were able to get, you must have been gone for quite some time. So, just letting you know, we would have put a tracker on if we had found you and him, earlier than when we actually did, but we didn't. So, yeah. And Screwball's like, wait a second, then how do you know it's he and my brother? And the other person is just like, because you just now mentioned it. By the way, you can call me Dr. Knight. I may not have the best past with the SCP Foundation, but that doesn't mean I'm going to throw everything about all of those memories away. There were actually some good memories made there. And so, basically, if you're wishing to go by my name formally, you can call me Dr. Knight. And basically, Screwball is just like, Dr. Knight, eh? Well, okay. Wait, Dr. Knight, is there really no way that I can go back? Is all of my. Wait, Dad's supposed to be immortal, so he would have done something to fix everything, right? And, Dr. Knight would just look at Screwball and would be like, well, she finished some of your food before. At least she finished some of her food before she started talking again. Not exactly. Considering the whole thing about the actual definition of immortality, there seems to be, a little bit of a hierarchy, a thing about being immortal. There are some beings that are more immortal than others. And that just so happened to be the case with my son and your daddy dearest. So, yes, everyone there is indeed dead, or at least was dead. That was until I came around to fix the mess. I'm partially done, but I'm finding some of these things harder to piece back together the more I get closer to actually now putting all the pieces of the puzzle, which is your world, back together. I'm thinking of just true resetting, but I don't know how well your world would adapt to that feature being added. Or just the reset feature at all. The reset feature that would remember what happened. True reset, no one would remember anything of what happened. But I'm afraid that could also extend to what happens with Discord and Chrysalis. Uh, So, I've just decided that the first chance I can get, I'll just go for a singular base reset. Just a normal reset. It shouldn't cause too much damage to your fragile world, if it causes any at all. Maybe your world is a little bit more stable than I first thought. Maybe resetting won't hurt it at all. The only damage I could think would be done is the fact that you and your brother aren't there. Remember, like I said, just regular resets. There is indeed the whole possibility that there could be some individuals that remember what happened before the reset. However, that isn't the case with a true reset. However, also, a true reset could lead to more bad than good. So, I'm basically on a route to go ahead and see what I'll have to do before I can reset your world completely. Well, not completely, but just reset it in general. You know what I mean, right? Everything would be fixed, at least mostly everything. No one would be dead. And, well, Screwball just thinks about it and, well, finishes her food. Yeah, none of it is poisoned, not even her drink that she was given. None of it was poisoned, actually. Actually tasted pretty damn good. And, whenever the this person, Dr. Knight, sees the look on her face that she, like the surprised look that she gave off, it's like, and all of that is due in courtesy to Chef Voila Entrant Dr. Knight. And Screwball asks the obvious question, what's an entrant? She even says it in the accent. And, well, not exactly in the best way, but she tries. And basically, you know, this Dr. Knight person is just like, and it's entrant, and entrant means, well, that the food was specially prepared by a very special person for a very special reason, or just in general that was dealt with great kindness. Yeah, after all, you will be staying here for quite some time. And Scribble is just like, well, I guess then thanks. But is it really that true that I'm going to be staying here for such a long time? And when indeed you do reset the timeline, whatever that means, I mean, I would at least like to be with my family. I mean, if they're going to have their memories, they'll remember that they like each other. They love each other. So, that wouldn't be a problem, right? And, well, the Dr. Knight person will just be like, oh, bother. And Screwball's like, oh, just by that reaction alone, I can probably tell that's not going to happen. And, the Dr. Knight person is just like, I'm terribly sorry, but there's a reason we picked you up. And it's not just out of the kindness of our hearts. Sadly to say, no, it was more for business purposes. And I hate myself saying that because I am normally not known to be that type of person who would only save someone if it meant successful business outcomes. But you seem to be the only chance we have at doing this right. Maybe not in the rightest of ways or for the rightest of reasons, but at least it will be it won't be a failure is what I'm trying to say. The experiment. That is, if you're willing to comply. If you're not, we can always, well, what Spy said. Even though I would hate myself doing that as well. And, Screwball can kind of, tell whenever people are lying, so he knows he's not lying whenever he says he hates himself for doing this. And Screwball is like, what is it that you're working on? What type of experiment is it? And this Dr. Knight person, he says, well, normally that would be something I couldn't tell you because it would normally be classified information. But that's only whenever Spy is around. Uh, However, he isn't around, so the whole classified information bullshit can go straight out the window. I'm not going to hide this from you. You've dealt with enough as it is already. From my son. So, I'll let you in on just exactly what the experiment is. It's to make the perfect being, one that could bring harmony and peace for everyone and everything. The perfect, well, apex of just overall happiness, peace, and love for everyone. No one would, no longer would anyone have to suffer or live their entire livelihoods in despair. This experiment, if it works, if it's done correctly, and everything goes according to plan, you will be the first ever actual successful example of what I'm trying to pull off here. A being that can usher in a new era, a new, never ending era of happiness for everyone. I've done so many horrible, terrible things in my past, and I want to make up for it by creating something that can, well, do all the things I wish I could see myself doing. But now, I don't think they would ever accept doing what I've done. I see this as the only way. An apex of peace and love and happiness and the betterment of everyone that's involved and not involved at the same time. That is what the experiment is, creating the perfect peacemaker. And, you know, Screwball was first like, that's a little unrealistic, but then again, this guy, I didn't even see him make that meal he just put in front of me. And, well, he seemed to be so sincere with the way he was saying it, and also the way he was talking about how he had done so many bad things in his past. Like, you know, Screwball, not only does she not want to pry for any of that, type of information from him, but, if it truly is indeed, and she, can tell whenever people are lying, if it's truly indeed to help people, and well, she can't necessarily get herself out of this situation, she's stuck here, basically. Screwball's basically like, I'd be glad to. And, you know, this Dr. Knight fellow, he'd be like, well, I'd be glad to accept the fact that you'd be glad to. Spy Sands. Spy Sands would just teleport in, like, via shortcut. He'd just be like, yeah, yeah, boss. And, Dr. Knight would just be like, well, I guess I can really say it now. We finally have, yet again, someone who can help us. And basically, this spy sans person is just looking at Screwball, and Screwball's looking at him. And basically, the spy sans person says, "Okay, then I'll ready up the tests." And Screwball's like, "Tests?" And the Dr. Knight person is just like, "There's a total of 8 in total. No one has really ever gotten past the 5th test. So, if you were to make it through all 8, you would come out as our perfect peacemaker." And Screwball is just like, no one's ever made it past the 5th test, and I have to make it through all 8 in order to do what's needed to be done? Well, I guess here we go. And the first 3 tests, they aren't too bad. The 3rd test is a little on the nose for Screwball's liking, but, there comes the 4th test, and that's where it actually kind of gets a little scary. But, overall, because of the fact that Screwball herself, even without actually using her powers, is still pretty, you know, pretty cool herself. You know, she's able to get past the 4th test with not too much of a problem. But, after every severe test, you know, Dr. Knight would do his best to, try to heal Screwball. But then it would come to the 5th test, and basically, Dr. Knight would be like, after this, in order to make sure that I haven't tampered with anything any more than I have before, unlike with the previous test subjects, I won't be able to heal you after this one or any of the ones afterwards. That's usually why, the whole thing about the 5th test. And, basically, Screwball would just be like, okay then, fifth test, here I go. And surprisingly, like, Spy Sands is actually like, should I retrieve the body? I mean, it looks like she's dead. I mean, come on. Like, but then all of a sudden, you get a little twitch, and, the head starts to lift up, and Spy Sands is like, well, I'll be first ever test subject to survive the fifth test. And Dr. Knight is like, well, I'll be indeed. This is great. Now, all we have to do is get her to the eighth test and have her survive it. If we're that lucky, then, well, you know, it will be perfect. And Spy Sands is basically like, yeah, uh, that would be perfect if they survive all of the extra tests. And the sixth test goes by rather nonchalantly. Like, after surviving the fifth test, like, not much surprises, Screwball anymore. The fifth test was hell on her body, and even then she was still able to move it. And not only was it hell on her body, but the fifth test was also hell on her mind. So, the sixth test wasn't really too much for her. Like, it was still hell, but after being through the hell that was the fifth test, she was able to adapt to the more extreme tests. And that's whenever test 7 comes in, and Screwball is actually able to do it. She gets all the way to the eighth test, and the eighth test, there is a big giant ass test tube like thing, like for her to go in. Like a big thing, kind of like this giant ass glass test tube, like container things. And, basically there's like gadgets inside of it, like little like things that you like hook up to your arms and legs, and even like a collar object that you hook around your neck. And Screwball is like, what are you waiting for? Open the damn thing. I've been through all 7 of the previous tests before. I'm not afraid of this 8th one, whatever it is. And so that's exactly what, is done. Basically, there are like things like attached to her feet, attached to her, attached to their hooves, like attached to Screwball's hooves, attached to Screwball's hooves, attached to her, basically basically attached to her front and back hooves, and around her neck. And she's just wondering, like, what's going to happen. And then all of a sudden, the container, like, a needle kind of comes out of nowhere and pokes her. And, it stays in for a little bit too long for comfort. But then she realizes it's kind of like an IV, like they're inserting some sort of liquid into her. That kind of makes her conk out, but before she goes completely sleepy sleep, there's like, she can see that liquid is filling like the tank, the container that she's in. And so, basically, like outside of the container, Dr. Knight is just like, Are you really sure what we're doing is right? And Spy Sans is just like, what do you mean? You're the one who got me onto this, not the other way around. And Dr. Nine is like, yes, I am aware of that, but are you really sure it's right? Well, now we have to take shifts, monitoring her success rate through the 8th test. This will change her permanently. Permanent change in the way everything about her works. She will be a new being altogether. Some of the changes she may be indifferent to, some of the changes she may hate us for, but I specifically selected the best way to determine the best way to make the perfect peacemaker. And so, even given the large risk that she may not survive the test, if she does, we will have the exact thing we need to push everything going forward instead of backwards. We will not be the great regressors. We will be the great progressors. Progress instead of regress. Progression instead of regression. Yes, all because of this one. The spy's like, you're assuming that they'll survive. And Dr. Nye is like, oh no, I know whenever I see something that I like, that I know will survive and thrive. Not only survive, but thrive. And Spy Sans is actually kind of like, Doc, you're in your head again. And, you know, basically, Dr. Nye is just like, sorry about that. It's still the old habit. More and more things from my time at the SCP Foundation just seem to come back to bite me. Well, are you ready to switch shifts? And Spy Sans is like, well, I guess so. And so, just all throughout multiple days, multiple nights, this test goes on. And then finally the machine stops. And, you know, the whole thing opens up. And, you know, Screwball has to be retrieved from the thing. The collar taken off, the IV taken out, and, these things around her hooves, you know, taken out or taken off, out, whatever you call it. And, well, technically, they're no longer hooves. Basically, if we were to go into Screwball's point of view, whenever she wakes up, she's spent the longest time in that little test tube thing, hearing voices. The voices of those two. The one who's called Dr. Knight and the one who's called Spy Sans. She had heard the voices on and on, talking about, like, shifting, like, talking about, like, changing shifts and like how perfect of a helper she's going to be, and just how proud this Dr. Knight is, and just how, well, mutually indifferent this spy sans guy sounded, but deep inside she felt that it was probably something more than just mutual indifference. And she had also heard a couple times whenever the good doctor had kind of went into his head, just thinking about the insane success rate that if if this succeeded, that they would be golden, even more than golden, freaking freaking platinum. Everything would be freaking platinum. And so, you know, just gets to thinking. And then, whenever she finally opens her eyes, she begins to realize some things. As in, she's naked, but not in the way she's used to being, you know, used to being a like, used to being normally a freaking pony that didn't really you need magic to like a horn to use magic, but instead she feels whenever she tries to move a part of her body, she can hear like clicking and clacking, and you know whenever she whenever her eyes are fully openable, whenever she can go like wide and like eyes and like see everything for the very first time in what seems like forever of just endless darkness. Whenever she's able to see herself, because the Doctor Night guy, he presents a mirror, and it's like, you like it or not, because this is the eighth test. Well, the result of it, the last test that we needed to run concerning the ultimate peacemaker. And Screwball seems to figure out, like, very soon through, her eyes adjusting to the mirror, she's no longer a pony. And the clicking and clacking sounds, that was bone, like, rubbing against bone, like, scraping against other bone, just by her moving. And basically, Dr. Knight explains that as like, oh, you'll get used to it to the point where you don't even hear it. That just depends on how long you can stay like this. Uh, if this will be a permanent thing, or if you'll die and become dust because of your new form. A monster, specifically the skeleton type. Yes, monsters, whenever they die, they become dust. Some boss monsters have the ability to persist for a little while longer, but eventually they become dust too, whenever they die. And, Screwball's like, what is this, some sort of sick kind of joke to do? Wait, what did you do with my voice? And, you know, I was like a freaking clipboard. The Dr. Night guy has like a clipboard and like a freaking pen. It's like, oh, that was indeed an unexpected change. Along with your form, so indeed has your voice changed. We weren't expecting that. And the way it did change. Let me inspect your soul. It's just like, soul. It's like the soul of Screwball. And he just reads through like everything and like he's like reading through the code of her soul, like the code of it to try to find like where is the gender? Where is the gender part of her code of her soul? You know, and just eventually finds it and he finds changed. He just finds the word changed. And, Screwball can also see what he's scrolling through. And, because it's their soul. And it seems to be in some sort of upside down position. And it also seems to be white. And Spy Sans, rambles off about how, like, oh, that's just normal monster thing. That's like a normal monster thing. Not just skeleton monsters, like all monsters have that. See? That's my soul. And he just shows his soul. And like this Dr. Knight person is just like, sorry about what happened. About that. You probably weren't wanting that. Ah, yes. Now, what I said about things being changed forever, you know, you know, uh, I don't think this is a change that you'll really get to liking anytime soon. I'm not even sure if you'll be able to grow into it. If you hate me, that's perfectly fine. No need to dump any hatred onto Spy. He's just, here with me because of the fact that we're friends. Isn't that right, Spy? Spy's like, well, you're not wrong. And so basically, like, you know, Screwball's just like, any other changes I need to know about, Doc? And, you know, Dr. Knight guy, Dr. Knight is just like, well, uh, besides the tests that have already been run, in order to make sure your body is fully compatible with everything else, including your mind and your new soul, and like even the emotional impact of everything, we will need to run additional side tests. But these are nowhere near as, radical as the test that got you here. Plus, before we do that, you're gonna need to pick some drip. And, like, Screwball kind of like cocks her head to the side, like, drip? And it's basically like, Spy Sans is like, you might need to be more specific, Doc. What the doc is trying to say here is, you're naked, and a naked skeleton running around. Well, you can see why I'm clothed. That's a normal thing for skeletons, to wear clothes. And since you're a skeleton from now on, well, uh, wait, didn't you say you had something already prepared for them? And, you know, you know, like, like, Dr. Knight is just like, oh, yes, indeed. It's very silly of me to forget that. And Screwball's like, wait, you already had stuff prepared for me? Just in case this happened? And, the Dr. Knight guy is just like, Yeah, well, of course I would. Why wouldn't I? I mean, I truly do indeed believe we can become friends. I mean, how hard could that be? I mean, we're getting there already. I mean, you don't hate me enough to want to kill me, do you? That's a start. If I know anything to be a start, that is indeed a start. And well, basically, Screwball has a tough time putting drip, their drip on. But if I were to name off what it basically is, basically, it's blue slippers with the bottoms being red, and blue pants with red stripe going through. And as for the shirt and jacket, the shirt is just pure black with like some purple writing on both the front and the back, but that's covered up by the hoodie, like hoodie jacket thing. And that is mostly blue but has some red. Yeah, so it's mostly blue and red, but there is like some black, like the shirt is black, and there's like purple writing on both the front and the back. And well, basically, whenever Screwball sees all their new drip, apparently that they're going to have, and they're just like, this is my perfect size. How did you get my perfect size that I would be if I was a skeleton? And what's with this feeling in my eye? And basically, Dr. Knight and Spy are just like, oh, you have that already? And Dr. Knight is just like, well then, I guess that means you'll have extra access to your magic from a very early start. This this is amazing. This is a breakthrough more than anything I've ever studied on in the SCP Foundation. They will wish they never fired me. Yes, this will be perfect. And, Screwball is just like, yeah, well, the eye, please. And Spy just explains, that's a part of your magic. And then just has a mirror, and it's like, the eye glows basically the same colors that, like, are the majority of, you know, Screwball's clothes now that they're a skeleton. So blue and red, but no purple. No purple, just blue and red. And Screwball's like, so you're saying this has to do with my magic? And, like, it's just a big, long, like, freaking session of, like, Screwball being taught about different types of magic. That it's not just all, like, magic from her world, that there's, like, different types of magic. Like, it just doesn't always fall under one category. There's like magic from like different universes, different multiverses. You know, it's not just all one big thing. There's like a lot of diversity actually whenever it comes to magic. And, Dr. Knight is like, and to show you that, I want you to hold your hand out like this and think of something that you hate. Before you do, I'm gonna put this dummy down here. And the dummy's like, what the hell is wrong with you, you sadistic piece of shit? And Dr. Knight is like, and that's why you're the target practice. And he's like, no one calls me that unless I say they can call me that. And it's just like, so, and basically, like, Screwball's just like, so you want me to act like this and think of, like, just hatred? Like, just hatred? And Spy is like, you can also think of other things, but mainly just powerful emotions that are inside your heart at the time, like the heart of your soul. Seeing as it takes on the form, the shape of a heart, that's what a soul does. You know, just think of something deep within your heart, like a deep, strongly resonating feeling deep down inside of you, and let it all out in a controlled stream through your hand, while also forming something around it, using your mind in the same way as which you created the stream. And like Screwball's listening to everything they're saying and just like, okay, and just like, whoop. And she's like, whoa, holy shit, what was that? And basically, you know, Dr. Knight and Spy would just like be blown away like really fast, like, holy shit, like the eye doesn't lie. They already have a really good grasp on like magic, like skeleton magic. And they teach Scribble how to like blue soul people and like how to create the bones from like anywhere and how to shoot out the bones from their hand and to like teleport and like just the whole shortcut deal, which is basically just another way to teleport, like a different kind of teleportation, and like the whole messing with time and space. And like Dr. Knight is like, there's far more that we can teach you. And they go like through all of the training, and so there is just so much that Screwball can do. She can even create, like, use her bone magic to manipulate it, like, manipulate her bone magic and create bone swords, which she's able to, like, use a special type of ability like chakra and, like, the lightning release version of it and like funnel that, or like the fire release version of it, and funnel that, like either lightning or fire, and like funnel one of those through her swords, and so like make it like covered in that. Or she can like go in like she doesn't really know how to pronounce this, and she's like and and it's just like she's trying to say Rayatsu, but it's kind of confusing. Like chakra, at least it was just two syllables, like Rayatsu, and she's not really familiar with all of this, but she just releases out a Getsuga show without even saying the name, and she's even able to like create Ceros, like not very big Ceros, but big enough to like cause some very powerful damage. And she's being taught a lot of stuff, and she is a very fast learner, as they realize. They come to realize. Like Screwball's like, if I'm gonna be stuck like this, I might as well commit myself to this stuff. And so anything that they try to teach her, she's a very fast learner, and she can not just like master it, but she can like perfect it if given enough time. and just resources to do what she needs to do. And so she even delves a little into alchemy like and the kind of magic that freaking mm, dragon slayer, god slayers, those people, that type of magic. So yeah, Screwball is pretty well equipped, and she even knows more than that. But you know, if I were to try to explain everything that Screwball knows by now, you know, this video would be longer than even the time limit of YouTube videos, which is 10 hours. Try to explain everything in very good detail. So, eventually the time comes and everything is just everything seems like it's going to be a good day, and well, you know, Dr. Knight couldn't be any happier. To him, Screwball has been a success more than anything. Just a real big success, and not just that, but like, sort of like a son to him. Because, the changing thing, so, not a girl anymore, a boy. So, yeah, just like a son to him. Because, of all the good times. And Screwball, this is kind of like a second family to her. Because there's more researchers and more people, doing the stuff. It's not just, like, that guy and, Spy Sans doing this. There are other researchers and other, lab members doing. So it's just a big happy family. And, she's treated right. She's treated with respect. She's given what she needs. And, well, yeah. So, a lot of good memories for the time that, she's there. And why I say that is because, you know, basically, you know, Dr. Knight goes over to hug, you know, Screwball just goes over to hug her, and basically while he's hugging her, Screwball can hear sounds of just very loud sounds. And basically whenever she gets out of her own mind, like, and she realizes, like, whatever was making the loud sounds, like, somehow this Dr. Knight guy was able to make his body strong enough to block them from going through him into her, or him, now. And noticing that in his last moments he did that to protect her, slash him. Screwball finally decides whoever did that is going to pay. Spy Sans, we need to find whoever did. And whenever she slash he turns her head, her slash his head, sees basically like a freaking PP7 from GoldenEye 64, or 007 GoldenEye 64, in the hands of Spy Sans. He was right there. He saw, and he couldn't stand it any longer. And so, he did it. He was planning to take, he was planning to take who out next, but, he was just this would probably be enough to just go through both of them. And so, just decided, handgun, just two shots, if the first shot didn't do it, and the second shot, if he fired in the same place, would push the first shot straight through, like adding to the momentum of the first shot. But sadly, he was wrong because Doctor Knight, this person named Doctor Knight, you know, he just hardened his body and was like, nope. He basically just used like a copy of Kirishima's quirk from like My Hero Academia. And knowing this, and also knowing now that, you know, it's like with Dr. Knight on the ground now, like bleeding out, like the bleeding is slowing, but that's only because there's like running out of blood to bleed out. And in that, like, he's trying to say something to Screwball, but Screwball isn't able to hear him because, Screwball is just on destruct mode now, and it's like, just like, why? Spy Sans, why? Why did you do it? And Spy Sans is just like, because he was getting in the way of me providing for my brother. By using all of these resources to help create you, make you the perfect peacemaker, I was losing the resources I was going to need in order to provide for my brother. My brother, Fresh. It was either him or my brother. I chose him to die, not my brother. Even if it means that I die here today. As long as my brother is safe, I don't care. That is the difference in between me and him. He only cared about what his interests were. I actually cared about someone else. And, basically, at that point, Screwball, they just lost their shit. And they're just like, liar, liar. He was very aware of what he was sacrificing in order to get me the way I am now. He was very aware of everything he was sacrificing. He even sacrificed himself in order to save me. I'm going to kill you for what you've just done. Having a brother at home or not does not excuse what you have just done. And so basically, it's just like one of the eyelights turns red and has like some design around it. And then they just say, Amaterasu. And then the Amaterasu, it just chases like, like Spy Sans is like running away and just runs up the wall to try to break through like the glass ceiling and like get away. But the Amaterasu chases after him, and even whenever he tries to get away and like get up to the top of the ceiling, like this only angers like Screwball even more, and so they're just like lightning style. And then the lightning style just channels into their legs, and then all of a sudden they just get right up in front of Spy, and the moment he stops because he got scared by her slash him, the Amaterasu just smacks him, and then after that, like it's just like lightning style, lightning blade, and just like shing, just cuts him right in half, and the halves like fall like the bottom half like just falls back in to the scientist area, and the top half, like, Screwball just at looks at him in the eye light and just like, to hell with you, and just creates a bunch of paper bombs and straps them all to the top half of Spy Sands, and then throws the top half of Spy Sands down there after igniting all of the paper bombs. And so it's basically, since there's a bunch of chemicals going around, like a bunch of chemical testing, like as soon as the explosion, like all of the stuff from the explosion hits the chemicals, just it's like a giant nuclear bomb just went off. And who is running away from the wreckage unscathed, like how everyone does in the movies, like not looking at the explosion? Who's doing that? But Screwball. But they have now christened themselves with a new name. They can no longer call themselves Screwball. Now, since they've killed someone, they killed Spy Sands, they committed a murder. They can no longer call themselves, they can't call themselves Screwball anymore. They come up with a new name, a new alias. They basically, Spy Sands call themselves Spy Sands, like they're like different Sands. That's basically the gist of what, like, Screwball is getting. So Screwball decides to call themselves Gallamy, especially because, like, during all the research stuff that Spy Sands and, you know, Dr. Knight were doing, there was something mentioned about something called the Heart of Gallamy, and it was in one of the 9 rings of hell. They didn't specifically mention which one, they just mentioned the Heart of Gallamy. And so, kind of, in you know, in memory of whenever Dr. Knight was alive, like the first thing that they could think of, having their mind being all messed with the loss of someone that cared so much about them, and, just committing murder just right then, right there. Like, not just Spy Sands, but everyone who was in the building that wasn't able to get out. So, like, that's freaking multiple murders in one. So, kind of has to change. And so, why not change to a name that brings back good memories? Memories of whenever, like, you know, their friend was alive. And so, you know, uh, Screwball just is like, Gallamy Sands, that's what I'll be. What a nice joke. Yeah, what a nice joke indeed. Now, I'm gonna raise some hell like no hell has ever been raised before. What's this? A town called Mellowwood just north of here. Well then, Mellowwood, Gallamy Sands is coming to town. So, get ready to get your shit wrecked. And that'll be all from me here today, people, because, Alan's eating a Dawson's because the Dark Shadow Maverick is OUT out of here. You boys, bye.